want to come in as empty as possible to a difficult discussion. Because the emptier you are, and the less full of your own stories and all the stuff you have going on, the more present you're going to be to not only the other person, but to the interaction or to the new thing that you're going to create with that other person inside of this difficult discussion. Because you're going to create it in a way that it hasn't been.
I like to use the metaphor of a canvas. If we go into a conversation with our mind as a blank canvas, anything is possible. We can have any kind of conversation. Lots of times we're walking into a conversation with that as our emotional backdrop, as our emotional canvas. Still, you can have any kind of conversation you want over this. Like, let's say, for example, to carry this painting metaphor a little bit further, you were an artist and you were going to paint a beautiful sunset. And you had some talent as a painter, which I don't. But if you had some talent as a painter, you could paint a beautiful sunset, probably no problem. If you had to paint over that, you could still paint a beautiful sunset. It would just be a lot harder, and it would take a lot longer, because you have to paint over everything that's there that wasn't supporting the picture you're trying to create. And if we walk into a conversation and our emotional state is like this, it's going to be a lot harder to get the outcome.
As soon as he hears something that sounds like he's done something wrong, the defenses go up, and the shots are fired back, and then it gets nasty. So, in terms of opening without defensiveness, there are some really specific things that you can do to create that opening part of the conversation in a way that the other person isn't going to get defensive. And in fact, they're going to start agreeing with you. It's so reciprocal. And anything in the conversation is reciprocal. And if I'm giving you great listening, you're going to give me great listening back. Or at least you're going to have more of a tendency to want to give me great listening back. Now, there's some people who it's going to take a while for them to catch up with you if you're creating great listening. They might not immediately create great listening back for you. I was talking to, this was last summer, I was talking about this to a guy who runs a consulting firm in town, and he said, geez, Janel, listening? Really? That seems really kind of basic. We really have to spend time talking about listening? And I said, well, Jeff, it's like this. Have you had a conversation with somebody where you felt like you were really, really heard, and the conversation could just build one turn after the next, and there were great ideas flowing or great thoughts, whatever, just kind of, oh, they heard me and they added to it. I said, have you ever had one of those? He said, oh, yeah, last week. A conversation with Grace, who works in our office. We were collaborating about a new program that we want to roll out to some big company, and it was just great. I mean, the time flew by. We didn't notice how long we'd spent doing this. We were so listening to each other. And I said, okay, have you ever had a conversation where you felt like you just said something really clear and straightforward and the other person didn't hear it at all? And he goes, oh, yeah, last night with my wife. And I said, okay, so you see the value. If you could have that kind of listening that you had with your coworker at home with your wife, what would that relationship look like?